leaving.
What are people demonstrating against here today?
So we are demonstrating against the ethnic studies curriculum, which is basically the indoctrination of children, grades K through 12, right here in California. They are working on teaching them division, teaching them that MLK is not a hero, and basically revising civil rights movement by saying that the Black Panthers were white and those people should be the heroes and violent extremists are to be idolized. It's going to be mandated that if a child wants to graduate high school, they'd have to be indoctrinated. That is their step 2, to be indoctrinated with this system. The first draft was really awful, yet the people who wrote the first draft are still taking it and shopping it around, and over 20 schools have signed up for that model of ethnic studies.
And how does it impact, where do Jews fit in this idea of ethnic groups who have been persecuted and are...
Well, all Jews have been persecuted, marginalized, yet again, we are placed in the margins. In this study, we're only in the margin, we're only a footnote, and they refuse to put us in the actual body of the study. We make up where Mizrahi Jews are probably the largest exiled population coming out of the Middle East, and yet the Arab studies curriculum has had the entire section to themselves, with Jews just being a footnote, even though we make up the number one.
Well, Jews aren't Jews or Jewish people in Jewish places the number one targets of hate crimes of any religious persecution even today?
Yes, Jews are the number one target of ethno-religious hate crime. We make up only 2% of the population here, yet over 68% of the hate crimes are against us.
Why do the liberals in charge of creating curriculum, why are they discriminating against the idea of Jews as victims?
By doing so, it's not just Jews. It's really an attack on the U.S. It's an attack on the U.S. It's basically calling the U.S. racist, inherently needs to be dismantled. And we've seen this happen in the Middle East, where they use children and incite children and use them as child soldiers. How else do you get kids to blow themselves up or join and become child soldiers, if not by indoctrinating them from a very young age? And unfortunately, we came here to flee persecution to only see the same narrative happen right here. And enough is enough, and this has been happening in colleges. UCLA, UCI just passed the BDS movement. But I think targeting kindergarten kids, kindergarten through 12th, indoctrinating them, that is the last straw. And I don't think any American should stand for this.
What do you think about all the JCPOA advocates from the Obama administration who were essentially setting Israel up against what would be a nuclearized Iran? What do you think about this administration, Biden administration, reinstalling all these people in official capacities?
Coming from that region of the world, it really pains me and scares me. I don't want to say that they haven't learned from their mistakes. The same people were in charge under the Obama administration, and it didn't get us anywhere. So by reinstating and basically giving free funds for those people to oppress their own people to oppress their own people.
You're referring to Iran?
Yes, to Iran to oppress its own people. Those people are hostages to the state. And by us giving them funds, we have blood on our hands.
The U.S. just approved of Iraq freeing up $6 billion. The Trump policy was to keep sanctions against Iran and against the Palestinians, not to give them money to pay stipends to jail terrorists. What's happening in this administration? What do you think they're looking for?
I think there's a direct attack on democracy, literally. We've seen it in the Middle East, where it's a physical war. We've seen it in Europe, where it's a war on numbers. And in the U.S., it's an ideological war. So we are standing on the wrong side of history today. with this new administration's policies.
Are you concerned that the U.S. may be trying to set Israel up to act alone against Iran? They're keeping the Saudis, right? They're pulling the Saudis away, that they're not giving the UAE the promised F-35 bombers. Do you think they're trying to set Israel up?
The only threat Israel poses to the free world is that it stands for freedom. And I see the bigger picture of people on top, whether it be governments, whether it be corporations, trying to take away power of human beings. They're trying to take away free will of human beings. And the Judeo-Christian doctrine says that we should remain to have our own free will. What's the point of living if we don't do that, if we don't have the right to choose between wrong and right, if we get murdered, beheaded right away if we make a choice? So by that's where we're headed, to have the top control the bottom, and Israel stands in the face of that. It stands against that inherently by even surviving, because it's a beacon of democracy. And that's why you see the attack on this country internally, and you see the attack on Israel, because it stands for Judeo-Christian self-rights.
Individualism.
Individualism.
As opposed to this new collectivism.
Yes, because then we can be controlled.